Greetings, nerds. This is Will Polk, producer and co-host of the Cena Nerd Podcast with our host, Sarah Belmont. Thank you so much for joining me on our new show here on the podcast called Cena Nerd Presents Blur Trek. I am your host and the resident Trekkie in our group here, and thank you so much for joining me as I excitedly get back to Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2. It premiered this past Thursday, and I am very excited about this series, especially when I first saw that trailer, and then, of course, the second trailer. And I have to say that this season so far is off to a great start. This week, I am going to be talking about that episode, give my overall thoughts and reactions, and a little bit of review to that episode. But also be sure to stick around to the end because I do have a sneak preview for the upcoming episode this week where Una does stand trial for her crime of being a genetically modified individual. So be sure to stick around to the end of the pod for that sneak preview. So we are back with the second season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The first episode out of the gate was The Broken Circle, written by Henry Lazo Myers and Akiva Goldsman, who is the showrunner for Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and directed by Chris Fisher, who is also an executive producer on the series as well. And so my overall thoughts with this episode is it did have a very good start. Of course, we continue to see the serialized storytelling with our characters, with picking up things about our characters that we've learned about in our first season, but still keeping the very episodic nature that Strange New Worlds is doing apart from the new Trek, which has been a very serialized overall season-long story arc. So we did see that picking up here with this episode, where they do have the standalone episode going into the Klingon neutral world where there is the lithium mono Karcha, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But the that great thing about this series, I really think, is that you don't necessarily have to have 50 plus years of Star Trek lore to enjoy it. Granted, it does help, but it's very open and accessible for non-fans, and it's very open in the regard too that it's a not serialized overall story arc. So you could pick up on episode 5 and not over and be able to enjoy it just as you would if you started from the first part of the season. So I think that is a great trend, and I'm glad they're continuing to do that with the second season. So a couple things. What I'm gonna do today is talk about the things that I liked, some of the things that I didn't like, and also just share a few Easter eggs with this episode. So out of the gate, we get Captain Pike and Una discussing her legal predicament. As you recall, at the end of season 1, she was arrested for the fact that she is an Illyrian, who their race is one that has either willingly or unwillingly, many folks have undertaken genetic modifications, which is against Federation law. And so they were discussing, of course, Captain Pike, being the individual that he is, was really optimistic, really wanted to keep her spirits up, don't throw in the towel, which that's exactly what you want in a friend and also commanding officer. He really believed in her. Una, of course, was like, Chris, why you're doing this? And of course, Captain Pike decides to, he's going to take leave and go try to find her the best defense lawyer in the Federation to help in this legal matter. So we did have that, and then of course we go to with Captain Pike. And the other second thing that I did like about this episode was it took a chance, having your lead in Anson Mount just basically only be in a very handful of minutes in this episode when he goes to Spock and has Spock being acting captain. Now in universe, the reason why, of course, was to go look for Una's attorney. But in real life, Anson Mount, when the show was being and this episode was being produced, was expecting the birth of his child, and so they utilized, and the showrunners knew that, and so they wrote the story in a way that the supporting characters would be the primary focus in this first episode. But utilizing that real life situation and integrating that into the in universe situation with the start of the second season, I thought was very good, and very bold choice by the showrunners. But the other good thing about this too is this truly is an ensemble show, and it gave Ethan Peck and the other actors, Babs, Jess Bush, and everyone else, really, everyone had an opportunity to shine in this episode and really step up and show really how strong an ensemble cast this is. Miss Gooding, as far as Uhura, everything about it was really nice. Speaking of Uhura, one of the things I did like about this episode too was the nice tribute that they had for Nichelle Nichols, who passed last year. At the end of this episode, I thought that was a very nice tribute that they gave to Nichelle Nichols. Getting back to the episode itself, of course, we do have Spock as acting captain, and the one of the great things about this is it was a real interesting juxtaposition between Spock. Later, when we see him, I know I said the series is one where you don't necessarily need lore, but this is where lore works, in that we had a juxtaposition of young Spock, Lieutenant Spock here, still, dealing with the consequences of his emotional outburst in first season in the ninth episode. Whereas when you think about an episode where Galileo 7, you have the Spock where he's dealing with emotion versus logic and trying to figure out what his command style is going to be. And in this episode, it was one of those situations where he was using emotion to basically drive some of his command decisions, and even asked Dr. Mbenga whether or not that would maybe make him emotionally compromised as far as his command, and which was another nice little nod to give to the character when Mbenga gave him the loot, which is something that again, if fans of the series are in the franchise know, very familiar with that with Spock. But this was a nice way that they integrated this in as far as how he got that into the story. But but also whenever they did do that, Spock did a very human thing as far as just trying to decide when he got Leon's message to basically go and come up with a ruse to steal the Enterprise so they can go to her on the Klingon world. So that was definitely something I did like about giving Ethan Peck those moments to shine. And then of course later in the episode at the end, when they had all the resolutions to everything, of course Spock having the moment of drinking the blood wine with the Klingon commander on the outpost there. So that was a great thing about Spock. Leon, speaking of which, of course, she did send a distress signal to the Enterprise, and he, of course, did it in a way that they could definitely determine that it was not a fake. It was fun seeing her drink the Klingon under the table. Lon, she's a very interesting character in that she has a very stern, no nonsense exterior, but then she has these like awesome moments like this episode where she was able to drink the Klingon under the table and had that awesome belch, which that was apparently a real thing. It wasn't added in as far as a fake sound effect or whatever. So I thought that was really good. Another strong thing, as I noted with Dr. Mbenga and Dr. Chapel, was dealing with the PTSD from the Klingon Federation War. And that again, that serialized character storytelling with these characters and the and really making it more three-dimensional, because when he's talking about how when he's on the false flag operation ship, when he talks about the rain, there's so much blood from the combat that is raining blood, and the trauma that he was experiencing there, it definitely like deepens some of the things that he does take the adrenaline or super serum or whatever you want to call it. It definitely helps frame why he was in, he could go from very mild mannered doctor to super aggressive not only was he fueled by that super serum, but also probably from the PTSD. So it gave some context to that when that happened. Of course, we do get an introduction of Commander Pelia, who we learned that she is from a race of long-lived people who had who lived on Earth for many, many years before they finally came out. Of course, it's Pride Month, and I think there's definitely many little layers to that when they with her coming out like that and talking about her race, but also just into the we've heard, this reminds me of Flint back in the third season of the original series, where we've had people and it live lifetimes on Earth and all, and I loved how they used Uhura hearing her accent to like pick up that she who and what she was, and I really like that. And also how she basically helped Spock come up with a more defensible explanation for why they had to take the Enterprise away from Starbase One, and also just the fact that she knows Spock's mother, which is again a nice little nod to continuity in the series. So those I really enjoyed Carol Kane. I remember her from Taxi growing up, and how she was Simca on that show, and it really, her comedic chops are definitely showing here in this series, and I'm hoping we'll get to see more of that as well. And then also the last thing, as far as some of the highlights for me in this episode, was the introduction of the Gorn again, and Admiral April, and trying to figure out what the bigger threat is, and the way he could have gone hard on Spock, but in this situation he didn't. So those are some of the things I did like about this episode. I'd love to hear what you liked about the episode, so drop in the chat below your comments to things that you liked about this episode. Now let me go to some things that didn't really work for me so well. So yes, I did really like Mbenga and Chapel having the PTSD talk, and even their kick-ass action. It is what it is. I mean, it definitely has some of those original series vibes in that, but the thing is, the action did feel a little bit forced to me, and even I have to admit, even the director of the episode, he was on the Seventh Rule podcast with Sarah Lofton and Ryan Husk, talked about how the fight sequence was actually much longer, and they actually cut it due to time and all, and also that it was getting a little superfluous. And so to me, that scene did, where I get why they needed it, and they were trying to spice up things and give action, and kind of go against type with our characters and what we would anticipate them, how they would react in a situation like that. It took me out of it for a little bit. I will freely admit that it did. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. If it didn't bother you, or if it did bother you, let me know. Put it in the chat. The other thing too is, I do know that they will probably. He did note that he will have, excuse me, more information about that, whatever that serum was that they took to give them those powers. Or I guess I won't say powers. I don't know if it was like a Marvel thing, hulking out or whatever, but it definitely gave them enhanced abilities, whether it was adrenaline or whatever the case may be. But that was one of the downsides for me. And then the other downside for me was the utilizing still in the Enterprise. The original stealing of the Enterprise in Star Trek 3, the Search for Spock, was just, to this day, hearing James Horner's score and everything, that just still resonates with me so much, and I just love seeing that, the original crew taking the Enterprise out of space dock and stealing it to go to rescue Spock from a Genesis planet. And so here, this one did not work so well for me, but but it served the story, and it moved the plot along, which was what it's designed to do. and it did give us some comedic moments there, as I noted earlier with for Commander Pelia and Carol Kane, which I think if in hands of other people it may have not have worked so well, but I thought it did work pretty well with them and Ethan Peck. So those were the things that didn't work so well for me with the episode. But overall, like I said, I really did like it. A couple of quick Easter eggs as far as things. Of course, the false flagship was looks like they repurposed components of the Crossfield class, which of course Crossfield class was the ship where the Star Trek Discovery, USS Discovery, is a Crossfield class ship. There was also nods to, of course, as I noted earlier, Dr. Mbenga giving Spock the Vulcan lute, which is the musical instrument that he was playing. Of course, you saw that later in the original series. I loved how it was introduced with Spock dealing with stress, and also again again, just really fleshes out these characters in a great way. And again, as I noted, given that Anson Mount was unavailable due to his own the happy occasion of the birth of his child, gave the other actors and the other cast members an opportunity to really shine here. And it was a big, coming out of the gate out for the first episode of a season. It really did. I thought it did well. Another note, Easter egg, we did have Christine talk about going to the Vulcan Archaeological Academy. That is a nod to, again, something that happens later in the original series, at least within the top Star Trek timeline, where she does meet up with someone that she had a relationship with there, Dr. Roger Corby. Of course, in the episode "What Little Girls Are Made Of," and so we learn that she's going to be going to that for a couple of weeks or months, in the future. So that again, this fleshes out the character as far as the serialized character arcs, but not necessarily But again, we do have to continue to have the episodic themes, and then and then also, as I noted before, we did have Admiral April and another admiral sitting there together in the Starbase One, discussing the Gorn threat. And I want to say maybe that is Admiral Nagura. So, again, to help people learn lore, especially if you're just watching Star Trek for the first time. Admiral Nagura was an admiral who was in command of Starfleet at the time of the V'ger incident during Star Trek 1. I won't tell what V'ger is if you haven't watched Star Trek, the motion picture, but fans who are part of the series knows who that recognize that name. And I'm wondering if we finally did get to see him in live action, because we've only had him in Star Trek the motion picture, and then also Admiral Nagura has been referenced in a lot of the written books in the Star Trek franchise. So maybe that was him. Let me know your thoughts. You think that was him, or do you think it was just a random admiral? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. So, like I said, overall, great episode right out of the gate. I liked it a lot. I can't say that I loved it, but it was a solid start to the season. Really gave other cast members a real opportunity to shine. I think all the ensemble did have a great opportunity here. Also, another little note, we did have the Klingons looking like we are accustomed to more Next Generations, the original series movies style versus how they looked in Star Trek Discovery, which it is an important note here, because when we are in the Star Trek Discovery time period where we did have the alternate looking Klingons, and of course we have the original series looking Klingons that which was explained away in Enterprise why they lost their ridges. But thought that was another nice note. So out of this overall, I would give this episode 4 out of 5 badgies. So let me know what you thought of the episode. Leave a comment below, and let's quickly turn over to the sneak peek for episode 2. All right, turning to this upcoming episode, Ad Astra per Aspera. This is the second episode for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, and this is the episode where Una will go to trial on the charges of being a genetically modified individual, which is, of course, against Federation law in the 23rd century due to the eugenics wars and other reasons. So that's why it's such a big deal. We do get a scene of Captain Pike here picking up from where things left off from the first episode. So let's take a quick look here at that scene of Captain Pike.
Captain's personal log, stardate 2393.8. I have traveled to the Volterra Nebula to find legal help for my first officer. The atmosphere here is not suitable for human life. The locals, however, have adapted.
Yes, he's still here. Yes, I told him. No, he did not. Okay. Counselor Catulle still can't see you today.
I can wait.
I told you, she's booked. She has a deposition, then an arraignment.
I can wait.
I don't think that you can.
Try me.
Fine, okay? Ugh.
You can take off your mask, Mr. Pike. The air is safe for you now. I knew you were stubborn. I just didn't think you were stupid.
All right. As we can see, Captain Pike is on a planet where he was going to seek out Una's legal counsel. Of course, it looks like it's a little bit different. Usually, whenever we typically don't see our heroes wearing face gear, breathing apparatus, unless they're in a really more hostile environment. But this looks like a normal class N planet. So, we do see that here, and he does make it to the office, and definitely leaves us wondering whether or not Chris was successful in getting the attorney to take Una's case. We'll find out next week. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on our channel here. We would definitely appreciate it. Of course, we have our normal full show with both me and Sarah talking about all things, not only the Star Trek, but also everything in geekdom, pop culture, and nerddom. So be sure to follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Follow our Star Trek show at SNN Blur Trek. Follow us on Instagram, scene_n_nerd. Friend us on Facebook. Be sure to bookmark our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, share this page, and listen to us wherever you get your podcast.